If you've been in therapy for months, maybe even years, and you still feel stuck, if you're a high achiever who's doing all the right things, but still battling anxiety, depression, that constant feeling that something's just off. If you're tired of therapists who teach you breathing exercises and tell you to think more positively, this video is for you. Because traditional therapy wasn't built for deep lasting transformation, and today I'm going to tell you about an approach that was. Hi, I'm Shale. I'm a licensed therapist and I specialize in something called liberation-based therapy. Now, if you've never heard of liberation-based therapy before, don't worry, most people have not, but stick with me because this approach has transformed the lives of my clients in ways that years of traditional therapy couldn't. Here's the truth. I adopted this approach because I was dissatisfied with traditional mental health care. I went to grad school, got my master's degree, learned all the theories, and then I went out into the field and was like, wait, this is it? We're just going to talk about people's childhoods for 6 months and hope they feel better? Now, don't get me wrong, traditional therapy has its place, but for a lot of us, especially BIPOC folks, high achievers, people who've experienced systemic oppression, traditional therapy just doesn't go deep enough. So I started asking, what if we approached mental health differently? What if, instead of just treating symptoms, we actually addressed root causes? What if we treated the whole person, mind, body, and spirit? This is the liberation-based therapy approach. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what it is, why it works, and how to know if it's right for you. Okay, so what is liberation-based therapy? At its core, liberation-based therapy is a holistic, anti-oppressive approach to mental health that recognizes that healing happens on multiple levels. Let me break that down. Traditional therapy focuses on your thoughts and emotions, what's happening in your mind, and while that's important, you are not just a mind. You are a mind, a body, and a spirit functioning as an integrated unit. We will work with your thoughts and emotions, yes, but we will also work with your nervous system, your body, your breath, your energy. Because trauma doesn't just live in your head, it lives in your body. Traditional therapy was created by and for a very specific group of people, wealthy, white, Western folks. And while the techniques can be helpful for anyone, the framework often doesn't account for the realities of individuals living through systemic oppression and intergenerational trauma. If you are navigating racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, any forms of systemic oppression, that's not just a stressor that you need to manage. It's trauma, and it needs to be addressed as such. Liberation-based therapy centers the experiences of marginalized folks and acknowledges that your mental health struggles are not happening in a vacuum. They're happening in a world that wasn't designed for your liberation. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say you come to me with anxiety. In traditional therapy, we might explore, where does that anxiety come from? Maybe your childhood, maybe a specific event. We'll work on cognitive strategies to manage the anxious thoughts and symptoms. Maybe you'd learn some breathing exercises. And that's helpful, but it's not enough. In liberation-based therapy, we'd also ask, where is that anxiety living in your body? That's the somatic work. And how is your nervous system stuck in a threat response? What oppressive systems or beliefs are you carrying that aren't even yours? What spiritual or ancestral wounds need attention, support, and care? We go deep. We don't just put band-aids on symptoms, we address root causes. And that is liberation-based therapy. It's therapy that actually liberates you from trauma, from patterns, from oppression that no longer serves you. So now let me be clear. I'm not saying that traditional therapy is bad. It helps a lot of people, but for high achievers, for BIPOC folks, and for people who've tried therapy and felt like something was still missing, there are some real limitations. Traditional therapy is very cognitive. It's about understanding your thoughts and reframing negative beliefs and processing emotions through talking. And this is a very Western, white, heteronormative perspective where cognition and logic are privileged as the most important way of knowing things and understanding things. But here's the thing, trauma lives in the body. You can talk about your anxiety and intellectually understand where it comes from and still have panic attacks because your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight mode. You can't think your way out of a nervous system response. You can't logic and reason your way out of it. You have to work with the body. If you are a Black woman navigating workplace racism, or a queer person dealing with family rejection, or an immigrant carrying the weight of displacement and intergenerational trauma, your therapist telling you to practice self-care and set boundaries is going to fall short because the problem is not just your coping skills. Yes, we need coping skills, but we also need to look at the systems that you're navigating. And liberation-based therapy is where we can name that directly and explicitly. We don't gaslight you into thinking it's all in your head. We acknowledge the very real impact of systemic oppression and help you to build resilience while also working to dismantle the ways in which those systems are showing up inside you and are internalized. Traditional therapy tends to focus on symptom management. You learn coping strategies, which are great, we need those, but coping is not the same as healing. True healing requires going deeper into the nervous system and into the body, into ancestral and spiritual wounds. Liberation-based therapy isn't afraid to go there. So if you've been in therapy and felt like you're just maintaining, but not actually transforming, that might be why. So how does liberation-based therapy actually work? It is built on 3 pillars, and think of these as the foundation. So, nervous system regulation, pillar number 1. Everything starts here. If your nervous system is dysregulated, stuck in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, no amount of talk therapy will create lasting change. So we work directly with the nervous system using tools like somatic therapy, neurofeedback, and breathwork and grounding techniques. When your body starts to feel safe again, your nervous system can then begin to regulate and everything else becomes easier. Pillar number 2, trauma processing. Once your nervous system is stable and more regulated, we can start to process the actual trauma. And this is where EMDR can be helpful, or somatic experiencing, or even hypnotherapy. And we're not just talking about the trauma, we're actually releasing it from your body and from your system. And we do this with cultural responsiveness. We acknowledge that trauma for BIPOC folks often includes racial trauma, intergenerational trauma, collective trauma. It is not just individual, it is systemic. Pillar number 3, liberation and reclamation. This is the part that traditional therapy doesn't touch. It's not just enough to heal from trauma. You also need to reclaim your power, your authenticity, your connection to yourself and your community. Liberation-based therapy asks, who are you outside of survival mode? What does your most liberated self look like and feel like? We work on shedding oppressive conditioning, reconnecting with your body and spirit, and building a life that reflects your values, not just what society told you you're supposed to value. And this is what liberation-based care looks like, not just managing your mental health, but actually creating the conditions in which you can thrive. So who is liberation-based therapy for? If you are a high achiever who's been successful on paper but struggling internally, if you are a BIPOC individual navigating the mental health impacts of racism and oppression, you've tried traditional therapy and maybe even medication and felt like something was missing. You are ready to do deep work, not just manage your symptoms. You want a holistic approach that honors body, mind, and spirit. And you're open to practices like EMDR, somatic work, neurofeedback, or mindfulness, and you're tired of the surface level coping strategies and ready for real transformation. This might not be for you if you are looking for a quick fix or a magic pill. If you're not ready to engage with the body, and some people aren't, and that's okay. If you want traditional by-the-book therapy with no woo-woo, because honestly, I mean, that's what some people want, but I'll just say that neuroscience does back up these more woo-woo based ideas, that there is a life force energy that we need to tend to and care about, and spiritual things that we need to tend to and care about. If you're not willing to look at how systemic oppression impacts your mental health, this might not be for you. Liberation-based therapy requires vulnerability, commitment, and a willingness to go deep. But if you are ready for that, this is work that can change your life. So if you're watching this and thinking, yes, this is exactly what I need, here's what I want you to do. I created a 5-day liberation practices guide with simple, actionable steps that you can start using today. It is completely free, and the link is in the description. I work with people in a few different ways. Individual therapy is one, and this is one-on-one liberation-based therapy, either online or in my office in downtown Brooklyn. I do neurofeedback with folks as well, and neurofeedback is the brain training that can help to rewire and regulate your nervous system. I offer the Vital Mind Intensive. This is my 6-month program for deep healing in community, with an option to include neurofeedback if you wish. And I do offer immersive healing retreats as well. All the links are in the description. Check out what resonates and book a free consultation. If you are curious about working together, book a free call. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to be, and if liberation-based therapy is the right fit for you. No pressure, no sales pitch, just a conversation. And if you're not ready to work with me specifically, that's totally fine. My goal with this video is just to introduce you to this approach and empower you to seek out the kind of deep healing you deserve. Because you deserve more than just managing your mental health. You deserve to thrive. All right, that's it for today. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'll be sharing more about holistic healing, nervous system work, and what liberation actually looks like in practice. Drop a comment and let me know, have you tried traditional therapy? What was your experience? I'd love to hear from you. And remember, healing is possible, deep, real, lasting healing. You just have to be willing to go beyond the surface. I'll see you in our next video.